Have you ever wondered why anxiety keeps returning? Even after the situation is over, even after the danger has passed, even when part of you knows there's nothing to fear. For many people, this is one of the most frustrating parts of anxiety. The feeling disappears, then suddenly it comes back. Again and again. It can seem random, unpredictable, almost as if anxiety has a mind of its own. But what if there is a reason? What if your brain is simply doing what it was designed to do? One of the most important things to understand about the brain is that it learns through repetition. Every experience teaches it something. Every reaction becomes information. And the experiences that involve strong emotions are often remembered the most. This is how habits are formed. Not only physical habits, mental habits as well. The brain notices a pattern. The pattern repeats, and eventually the pattern becomes automatic. This process helps us learn useful skills, but it can also help anxiety become stronger. Because the brain does not learn only from reality, it learns from experience. And sometimes the experience it learns from is fear. Imagine that one day you experience a strong wave of anxiety. Your heart races, your body feels tense, your thoughts become overwhelming. Naturally, you want the feeling to stop. So you leave the situation, you avoid the challenge, you seek reassurance, or you distract yourself as quickly as possible. And almost immediately you feel relief. That relief feels good. In fact, it feels so good that the brain pays close attention to it. The brain begins to connect the dots. It notices what happened before the relief appeared, and it starts building a lesson. The lesson sounds something like this. That situation was dangerous. Escaping helped. We should do that again. The problem is that the brain is not always accurate. It doesn't automatically know whether the danger was real. It only knows what happened. Anxiety appeared. You escaped. Relief followed. To the brain, that sequence looks important, so it stores the pattern. The next time a similar situation appears, the brain remembers. Not consciously, automatically. It activates the same warning system, not because it wants to make your life difficult, but because it believes it is helping you survive. This is how anxiety slowly becomes a learned response, a habit of protection. The more often the cycle repeats, the stronger the connection becomes. Eventually, situations that once felt neutral can begin to trigger anxiety, not because they are dangerous, but because the brain has learned to associate them with danger. And once that association is established, anxiety can begin appearing long before anything actually happens. That's when many people start feeling trapped, because the anxiety seems to come out of nowhere, but in reality the brain is following a pattern it learned over time. This also explains something that confuses many people. Why does anxiety continue even when you know you're safe? Logically, you may understand there's no real danger. You may tell yourself, everything is fine. There is nothing to worry about. I've been through this before, but anxiety still appears. Why? Because the emotional brain learns differently than the rational mind. Understanding something intellectually is not always enough to change an emotional pattern. The brain learns most effectively through experience, and if it has experienced the same anxiety cycle many times, that pattern can become deeply familiar. In fact, familiar patterns often feel more believable than logical explanations. This is why anxiety can feel so convincing. The body reacts, the alarm activates, and before you have time to think, the brain is already preparing for danger. Many people assume this means they are failing, that they should be able to control the feeling, that they should be stronger. But that's not what is happening. What you're experiencing is a learned response, a pattern that has been reinforced over time, and patterns do not disappear simply because we understand them. They change when we create new experiences. Think about learning to ride a bicycle. Reading a book about balance is not enough. You learn by practicing. The same principle applies to anxiety. The brain needs opportunities to experience situations differently, to discover that discomfort can exist without danger, to discover that uncertainty can exist without catastrophe, to discover that anxious feelings can appear and disappear without requiring escape. Every time this happens, the brain receives new information that slowly begins to compete with the old pattern, and that is where real change begins. Not when anxiety disappears completely, but when the brain starts learning a different lesson. So if anxiety is a learned pattern, how do you begin changing it? The answer is surprisingly simple. You teach the brain a new experience. Not through force, not through fighting, and not through trying to eliminate every anxious feeling. Instead, you begin showing the brain that discomfort is not always danger. This takes patience. Because the same way anxiety was learned through repetition, new patterns are learned through repetition as well. Every time anxiety appears and you stay present, the brain learns something. Every time you resist the urge to escape, the brain learns something. Every time you allow uncertainty without treating it like a threat, the brain learns something. Little by little, a different lesson begins to take shape. The lesson is no longer, danger is everywhere. The new lesson becomes, I can handle this. That shift may seem small, but it changes everything because confidence is not created by eliminating anxiety. Confidence is created by discovering that anxiety does not control your actions. Over time, the old pattern begins to weaken. Not because you are suppressing it, but because you are replacing it. The brain starts collecting evidence. Evidence that the feared situation was manageable. Evidence that discomfort passed on its own. Evidence that anxiety was not a reliable indicator of danger. And with enough repetition, the alarm becomes less convincing. The anxiety may still appear from time to time, but it no longer feels like an emergency. It becomes a signal, a sensation, an experience, not a command that must be obeyed. And that is one of the most important things to understand about anxiety. The brain can learn fear, but it can also learn safety. The same ability that created the pattern can help transform it. And every time you respond differently to anxiety, you take one more step toward teaching your brain a new way to see the world.